Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Moore, and the topic I chose was Student Characteristics and Teacher Interaction, Risk and Resilience. The school that I observed in is located in North Nampa, and so I thought I would do some research about that area. I found out that it has the highest poverty rate in the Treasure Valley. 42% of the people live below the poverty line, and 16% of families are living 50% below the poverty line. The school that I was privileged to observe in, I will call Smallville Elementary for privacy reasons, and they offer a variety of different things. It's a Title I school, and so they provide 100% free lunch. They offer free afternoon snacks. They have lots of yummy, fresh fruits and veggies. They have a food and clothing pantry. And they just hired a certified psychologist. And they're really there just to meet the needs of the students and their families, and they do an excellent job at that. So I want to talk a little bit about at-risk students. And these are students that are living in a poverty-stricken environment. And when I say at risk, what I mean is endangerment, vulnerability to negative developmental outcomes. Now, not all children who live in a poverty-stricken environment are considered to be at risk. Children are often very resilient, and what that means is that they often have the ability to withstand and rebound from crisis or persistent challenges. Psychologist Emmy Werner actually did a study on some infants that lived in Hawaii, and they lived in families that were either chronically poor, had problems with alcoholism, or were abusive. And many years later, she went back and found out that these individuals had overcome the odds. And in fact, 1/3 of the children turned out to be perfectly normal adults. And she mentioned that she believes it was because that they had some sort of positive role model in their lives that replaced maybe the position of an irresponsible parent. Now I'm going to go into my observations in Miss Poppins' class, and she teaches second grade, and her name's not really Miss Poppins, but I'm going to say that her name is Miss Poppins for privacy reasons as well. And this is just a typical Monday. And before I actually go into my observations, I'm going to talk about the benefits of observing. And I think it's important to think about what we can expect from observing. I think the first thing we can expect is observing student behavior, teacher-student interaction, how to effectively manage a classroom, and how to implement lesson plans and activities. And these are just a few things that we can expect when we go to observe in somebody's classroom. Now, this is Miss Poppins' class schedule. At 12 p.m., Miss Poppins brings her students in from lunch recess. Then she instructs them to get out their decodables. She directs her students to sit on the multicolored rug in the front of the classroom. Then she reads a portion of the decodable, then instructs her students to read aloud the portion she previously read to them. Once the students have finished reading their decodables, Miss Poppins tells her students to put them away. If you're not familiar with what a decodable is, it's basically a printed booklet containing age-appropriate reading material. Miss Poppins then instructs her students to sit at their desks and to take out their curriculum textbooks and to turn to a certain page. One of the things I noticed is that she has her students seated in groups of 3 or 4, and that helps to encourage student interaction. She then has the students follow along as she reads from the textbook. After each page, she does a teacher question and student response review. And this is just kind of a side note, but Miss Poppins has her students follow the text with their fingers to help them focus more and to make it easier for them to follow along. And I also noticed that she does not call on students who blurt out. She calls on students whose hands are raised. And I'm going to stop for a second and talk a little bit about classroom management, because Miss Poppins ran a tight ship, or I should say she runs a tight ship. She has classroom rules and expectations. And one of the things I always heard her say was to sit slant, or remember to sit slant. And what that means is S stands for sit up straight, L stands for listen, A stands for ask and answer questions, N stands for nod appropriately, and T stands for track the speaker. She has some additional rules written on her whiteboard, and these rules are: follow directions the first time they are given, keep hands, feet, and objects to yourself, use appropriate language for school, and be kind to everyone. And I really feel like her enforcing these rules, because she does so in such a loving but firm manner, creates for a very safe and peaceful learning environment. And I think it also helps to create for a better teacher-student interaction, something that we talked about a little earlier. So back to my observations. Miss Poppins then tells her students to begin preparing for station time. And she calls the station time her daily 5. She gives her students 5 different options. They can either read to themselves, do word work, listen to reading, do reading on the computer, or go to the writing station. And then finally, she instructs her students to line up for specials. And this is about the time that I end my hour or couple hours of observation. So I want to talk about the writing station prompt and CFU. So Miss Poppins writes a prompt on her whiteboard for the students that decide to go to the writing station. And the prompt goes along with the lesson written out in the curriculum. The prompt goes something like this: would you rather have a vegetable or flower garden? First, because, next, last, closing sentence. I was able to help some of Mrs. Poppins' students with this assignment. And I think this particular exercise helped challenge her students and help them to think outside of their comfort zone. And so what I thought would be fun was to challenge you to think outside of your comfort zone. Try and answer the question to the following prompt. Would you rather be an elementary school teacher or a secondary school teacher? First, because, next, last, closing sentence. For this exercise, you will need a pencil and a piece of lined paper. Lastly, I want to say thank you so much for listening to this lesson, and I hope that you learned a lot, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.